The spirit of 1880s socialite Katie Briggle is alive and well in Breck. Phil Lindeman with Krystal 93 News. Are there really haunted houses in Breckenridge? June Walters is convinced.
We have staff and docents and guides have experienced lots of haunted goings-on in the Briggle House.
Walters is one of several tour guides for the Breckenridge Heritage Alliance. It oversees dozens of historic buildings and other areas in Breck, including more than a few with long histories of hauntings. Perhaps the most well-known is the Briggle House. It's a lush Victorian mansion just off of Main Street, and for years in the late 1800s, it was home to William and Katie Briggle, two wealthy and well-known socialites. But if you ask Walters and others, including the in-house paranormal investigator at the Alliance, the Briggles are still alive on Harris Street.
They opened the lid of this box, and there was this whooshing, someone like escaping out of the box and moving past them. But inside this wooden box was an infant's casket.
The list of paranormal activity there is staggering. Visitors and guides have heard mysterious music, felt cold drafts away from windows or doors, and seen ghostly reflections of people who weren't there.
In some of those photographs that are taken into the mirror in the dining room of the Briggle House, there is an image that appears of a person dressed in late Victorian era costume, and it's an extra person.
The Heritage Alliance hosts a special Halloween tour of the Briggle House and other haunted abodes today at 7:30 p.m. Cost is $20 for adults or $15 for kids, and the house is only open to people on the tour. Late last week, President Donald Trump declared painkiller and opiate abuse a public health emergency, but it's far from a new epidemic.
As everyone is learning now, you don't really think it's a very serious drug at first because it's prescribed to you.
That was 33-year-old Carlos Santos. The Summit native got hooked on painkillers during rehab after a devastating football injury. Now, 15 years later, he's clean and helping other disabled locals through a Dillon nonprofit.
If everyone's drinking and smoking these illegal drugs, me taking a little bit more than I should of these, which are prescribed to me, it really won't be a big deal.
Santos knows the root of addiction is personal, but he also knows that public access to painkillers is part of the problem. In the U.S., a federal commission found that 64,000 Americans died of drug overdoses in 2015 alone. 2/3 of those were opiate overdoses. In the same year, doctors prescribed enough painkillers to keep all 321 million Americans medicated around the clock for 3 weeks. Local doctors are doing their part to fight back. At St. Anthony's Summit Medical Center, a representative for the parent company, Centura Health, said the company does not limit painkiller prescriptions. Instead, it relies on doctors to use their best judgment.
We support our physicians in prescribing controlled substances, meaning we're not completely turning away from opioids.
At Summit Smile Center in Frisco, dentists don't prescribe opiates. Instead, they suggest something known as a combat pill, a combination of Tylenol and ibuprofen. Unlike opioid painkillers, which simply mask pain, this combination also battles inflammation. That is often the root of dental pain. In sports, Game 6 of the World Series is tonight when the Astros look to win their first title in club history against the Dodgers. The Dodgers are eyeing their first win since 1988. Astros lead the series 3-2. First pitch is 6 p.m. on Fox. Phil Lindeman on Krystal 93 News.